Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Adam and I like to review things. I just finished watching the movie Oppenheimer. I did not see it when it came out, but surprisingly, it's worked its way onto the list of, some of the greatest movies of all time, at least according to IMDb. So I'm going through a list of those movies, so I decided that I would watch it and give you a review. Um, let's start with the positives. The positives are that um, Cillian, I guess, Murphy does a very great job portraying Robert Oppenheimer, and Robert Downey Jr. also gives a great performance as a guy named Strauss. And it's really it Robert Downey Jr. can act, but of course people know him for his biggest role of his career and one of the biggest roles any actor has ever had as Tony Stark in Iron Man. But this gives him a chance to show kind of other facets of his acting range, like maybe more smarmy. Maybe not smarmy, but smarmy in an older kind of way, not like a cool kind of way, more like a slick politician kind of way. So those two performances are really good, but ultimately, I think the film fails. The film was directed by um, Christopher Nolan, and I think maybe it's the only one that he's won an Oscar for, and I think that's a real shame because I don't think it's his best film. And I'm not a huge Christopher Nolan fanboy, but I would say sometimes he is really good at making films that you might not like but are visually interesting, like Inception, or brilliant films like The Prestige. This film is neither visually interesting nor is it like intellectually interesting like The Prestige, because it's all told from the perspective of this one conflict between Oppenheimer and this guy named Strauss. And the fact of the construction of the atom bomb and everything that came out of that, it's not really it's not really shown. And that's connected to my two biggest criticisms. One is I would agree with Tarantino. I saw an interview of his recently, and he said that he hates biopics because they try to talk about the whole range of a person's life. And the whole range of a person's life is not usually that interesting. So, and this film does it as well. It doesn't talk about his childhood, but it talks when he's like a student, and it goes from him being a student until him being awarded a medal by the President of the United States in the 60s. So it goes, that's like a 50-year period of his life. And the other criticism that I would have for this film, and what I share with a lot of people, is I think that this film was prevented from being shown in Japan. And the reason is the impact of the bombs on Japanese citizens and civilians is not actually shown. You know, Oppenheimer is convinced to support dropping the bomb because he believes that the Japanese wouldn't surrender and that actually dropping the bomb would cause less civilian deaths than an invasion of Japan. And that may or may not be true, but the kind of plot of the movie was him sort of like, I didn't buy actually that he really regretted dropping the bomb, and I think that he did in real life regret it. He felt bad about, maybe not bad, he felt guilt about the situation, And there is a scene in the movie where Truman is talking to Oppenheimer, and he says like no one in Japan is mad at the person who built the bomb. They're mad at the person who dropped the bomb, which is me. But to get a real sense of the guilt, you need to see some of the devastation. And that's the thing that kind of is strange because Nolan could have done that, but he made a choice not to. And there's scenes where like the reality of the film breaks down. Like there's one part where he is being interrogated for some reason, um, connected to his security clearance, and they bring up the fact that he's having an affair. So Nolan shows him having sex with this woman in the middle of this kind of quasi courtroom scene. Then he shows that there's this character who says that he was a pilot in the Second World War, which also didn't make a lot of sense. But anyway, that's kind of a pointless goof to talk about. But anyway, he says that he saw V2 rockets on their way to England, and he has this hard time, like he can really imagine Soviet missiles coming to America and doing that. So, and then you have Oppenheimer in the cockpit of the plane and seeing that from his perspective. So he could have shown the Japan like maybe not even reality what happened, but Oppenheimer's imagination of what happened, and that's not there. So those are my two biggest criticisms of the film: that it doesn't show the Japanese perspective of the film, and it doesn't show the Japanese perspective of the film, and also any like imagination of what Hiroshima and Nagasaki were actually like on those days. Not great days. And plus, it tries to do like way too much. Like, I think that you could tell an interesting story about Oppenheimer and how he helped to create the bomb and how he felt about it. You know, stories like that can be like an afternoon or, like he wakes up from a nap or something. There is a way of doing it where you're not trying to condense 50 years of a person's history into a 3 hour film or over a 3 hour film. Yeah, and apart from Downey's performance and Murphy's performance, the rest of the cast, they do an adequate job. And I think that Oppenheimer's wife is written in a really bad way because sometimes she's fiery and protective of him, and sometimes she absolutely loathes the man, and you wonder like why she is still with him. And you know, he was married, he had kids, and that's not really important part of the story, actually. So it doesn't need to be brought up. So yeah, I didn't like it. It's not a bad film by any stretch of the imagination, but I've watched much better films, both from Nolan and recently. If you want to see a movie where somebody is struggling with the consequences of their actions or inactions throughout their career, you can look at Ikaru, or Ikiru, actually. No, it's not Ikaru, it's Ikiru. It's a film by Akira Kurosawa, and it just shows what a man who is struggling with regret really feels like. And I didn't get that feeling from Oppenheimer, unfortunately, and I think that's connected to the directing and the screenplay. It's not connected to the acting. But anyway, what did you think of Oppenheimer? If you've seen it, leave your thoughts in the comment section. If you like what I do, please subscribe. I'm trying to get 150 subscribers by the end of January. And currently I have about 125, so that should work. That should be doable. Yeah, and if you really like what I do, please check out the Patreon in the show notes or the description of this video. Thank you. Bye-bye.